They tryna turn Trenton into Baby Flint. Been signs by depression on the billboards ever since. 100 years ago we was lynched. Now they use germ warfare to kill us. I'm convinced, got the evidence. I look around and it's evident. Then go down to City Hall and see so much negligence. Real art is intelligent. A true artist sends messages that speak to your intelligence. They fought and died so I can do my thing. Not to get drunk and high or join no gang. I will not let none of you die in vain. For my people I bang, bang, bang. My ancestors been through so much pain. I don't let them die in vain. My ancestors been through so much pain. I don't let them die in vain. I rep for you in everything I do. I rep for you in every place I go. I rep for you in everything I do. In every place I go. They say post-traumatic slavery disorder's fake, but I just tell them all to wake up. Everything we went through, what a way down a rape, bro. Isn't our genetic makeup. So I am my ancestors from block to block. Let's build like it's Tetris. We must unite, link up like a necklace. They fought and died and we disrespected. So I come to correct it. The legacy they left I protected. We only think about self and neglected. You're African but yet you rejected. No. My ancestors been through so much pain. I don't let them die in vain. My ancestors been through so much pain. I don't let them die in vain. I rep for you in everything I do. I rep for you in every place I go. I rep for you in everything I do. In every place I go. I do. I go.
Welcome back to another edition of New Freedom Exchange, your cultural expression for social dignity and community empowerment. I'm your co-host, Mujahideen, here with...
Assalamu alaikum, Sister Marsha.
All right. How you doing? Our other co-host, of course, Imam Bilal Hassan. He'll be on shortly, God willing. We'd like to welcome you all back to another edition of Faith Community Exchange Discussion. Faith communities together around the Word of Life. And we'll introduce they're not guests anymore, they're part of the show. Next time they'll come on when we come on. But we'll introduce them shortly. We do want to give a shout out to those of you who are here. Let us know where you're watching us or listening. Well, yeah, if you're watching, where you're watching from. I see Renata. Hello. Good afternoon to you as well. I also see Gary. Okay. 1 and 2. Welcome. And then, how do you pronounce this name?
Magdalena.
Say it with the accent.
Magdalena. Gotta get your accent. You gotta be rolling them R. Well, ain't no R in there, but you gotta have the accent. You gotta know what you're doing with that Hispanic name.
You got it. So we'll do a quick check-in. We'll bring everybody on and then we'll do a check-in. So we have, I should do a drum roll. Kate coming down the line. O'Brien. We have Karen. And our one and only Sasha. Welcome back.
Thank you.
How y'all doing?
Fantastic. Good to be here.
All right. So normally we do a check-in and let everybody know, what you've been up to since the last time we all met. So I'll start out with Kate. I'll go with you first.
Yeah, sure. Wow, lots of things over the past month. I think maybe the most memorable was I work on a university campus. I took a group of students for like an experiential learning experience in Sacramento, California. Spent a week with them. It was beautiful. I was exhausted afterwards. I think I slept for like 36 hours on and off, but it was worth it. It was great.
Nice.
I'm sure you flew, right? That's a hike.
We flew. Yeah. I think had we more time, we could have driven, but we were like stuck in that spring break mode. So we flew and made the most of the time over spring break. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's my style of driving. How about you, Karen?
For me, I would say this past month, a big change would be starting a new job. So I actually moved from the DC area to Illinois, did that, and then started a new job right in the city. So it's been a lot of transition, but all good. All good news. Whenever there's a big change in your life, but then you get these like little experiences of affirmation that it was the right move and worth the challenges and sometimes stress, but good stress. So I think that it has been a major focal point this past month.
Nice. Sasha, you're up.
Hi, everyone. I apologize in advance for my connectivity. I've been kicked off a few times at this point, but I'm going to do my best to hang tight and participate.
She's in the Ivy Towers, we heard.
I don't know if Mujahideen's even shared it yet, but I love knowing that we're not that far away from each other right now, just across the state border. I know he's Mujahideen. I'm tuning in right now from, I guess this could be considered sort of part of my Lenten practice, if you will, in terms of living out an act of love for a friend and house sitting and coming down to be able to take care of the home while my friend is away. But I've been afforded a beautiful view to close out the Sunday evening with everyone here. There's the lakefront, the Lake Michigan, and I know Mujahideen is not too far out in Gary, looking at the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Tease us with the view. How about you? Are you done? Oh, my bad.
Oh no, I'm just other than that, I guess reflecting on just gratitude right now for being here in community with you all and from be able to enjoy a beautiful sunset over Lake Michigan by way of loving my neighbor and taking care of home. Mm-hmm.
How about you, Sister Marsha?
Yeah, I mean, everything is everything. I know last month, both Mujahideen and I were not able to be a part of the faith community's conversation, but we're here today, and I'm happy for it. I'm happy to be with you all. You know, my day to day has pretty much been the same, which is a good thing. You know, not too much change is a good thing, and you know, we actually yesterday which was really nice. At Mesh Muhammad in Newark, we had a chance to have a pizza party for the children in the community. It was nice to be able to have them all together. And I was actually surprised with the number of children who came out. You know, the room was full and they were having fun. And, you know, we haven't done a lot of that since COVID. And even prior to COVID, we had like drips and drabs of children sort of coming in and being together, but it was nice to see like a full room yesterday. And I didn't even get to stay the entire time, but even for the time that I was there, just having the children together and knowing that at least for that moment, there'll be this memory that they have of being in the masjid together is priceless.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm about to call myself a roly-poly, but I'm not a roly-poly. That's what my son would say. But in my travels throughout wherever I be here and there, I did have an opportunity to accompany Imam Razak last week. We were at King University speaking with the young adults there, the MSA there, Muslim Student Association, about marriage and being prepared for those type of social responsibilities. And it was very enlightening for me because I mean, since I can remember, it was always about getting married, but there are some necessary things that you should take into consideration as you go in your pursuit for your spouse. And we'll have another whole show about that. It's going to be very fun. Now we just jump right into our discussion. We are addressing the word of life from the Focolare movement, as well as the Muslim word of life, but we're also including fasting edition, since we are approaching our fast, and then we know the fast of Lent is upon us. And so we do have a quick video, 2 videos. We'll start off with, I'll start off with the quote from the Quran, Surah 2, verse 283, I don't have it in front of me, where it says, "O you who believe, fasting is prescribed to you as it was prescribed to those before you, so that you may learn self-restraint, self-consciousness, and self-regardfulness." And so we know that the tradition of fasting for Ramadan is the latest of the people of faith fasting, but we have to also recognize that previously messengers and prophets, they had their form of fasting. And so we'll just give a quick video from Kate in reference to Lent, and then we'll go into a quick video in Ramadan, and we'll be right back.
So quick intro to both these videos maybe. The one on Lent was created for a group of preteens, pretty amateurly created in a way, but it's for preteens. So I love watching videos that were made for younger generations because I think they help break things down in a simple way. So this is a 5-minute video about Lent and what's it about, not only for us as Christians, but specifically with the spirituality of the Focolare movement. So I'll share the screen, right?
Once you share screen, I'll pull everybody off, and then
okay, perfect.
You can let it play. Yep.
All right.
How can I love more this year? Lent is a 40-day season that begins on Ash Wednesday and ends at sundown on Holy Thursday. We spend 40 days preparing for Easter by getting closer to God through fasting, prayer, and almsgiving. These 40 days remind us of when Jesus was led by the Holy Spirit to the desert. There he suffered hunger and different kinds of temptations, but God was always with him, sending him angels to take care of him. By the end of these 40 days, Jesus was ready for his public ministry. So during Lent, we have an amazing opportunity to journey with Jesus and grow closer to God. Since Lent is a time for giving things up, doing extra sacrifices, and other acts of penance, we can sometimes think of Lent as a difficult time, but really, Lent is a super special time where we get ready for the biggest celebration of the year, Easter. It's a time that helps us grow in our relationship with God. Think of a hot air balloon fired up and ready to go. It can't go until the weights are untied, then it leaves the ground and flies. Lent is a time where we can untie ourselves from things that are stopping us from flying in our relationship with God and others. Some years ago, right about this time, Kiara Lubick spoke about penance. Let's see what she said so that we can explore ways that we can prepare for Easter in unity with the whole church, through fasting, prayer, and almsgiving, and at the same time in a way that is special for us who live the Focolare spirituality. One image Kiara gave us was about pruning a plant. Have any of you done gardening before? Many bushes and trees need to be pruned. Look at this one. There are some stray branches that are stopping the tree from growing properly. So the gardener will prune it. Then it is able to grow stronger and more beautiful. That's how Kiara spoke about penance. Through penance, we are pruned so that we can grow closer to God and be happier. The closer we get to Him, the further ahead we get on our road to being saints. She asked herself, what is our typical way of doing penance, of becoming saints? Those of us who try to live the Focolare spirituality have a special love for Jesus on the cross when he cried out, my God, why have you forsaken me? He felt divided from everyone, and even worse, he felt divided from God. It was a moment of big suffering for him. We in the Focolare try to love Jesus on the cross in a special way. How do we do this? How do we love Jesus in his moments of division and suffering? We continue loving even when faced with difficulties. In fact, we try extra hard to love when we or others are suffering. Another thing we do is try to heal divisions. Are there people around us who are sad? We pay extra attention to them and let them know we are close. Are our friends or family members fighting? We give them extra love to bring peace. Are there wars or conflicts in our country or in our world? We pray for those situations and see if we can do any service projects or fundraising for the people and places where there is division and pain. So Kiara invited us to look out for ways that we can do these acts of love for Jesus forsaken on the cross. She said to us, the youth of the Focolare, you know the key for transforming the darkness, the cold, and the suffering of the world into light, fire, and joy. It is our secret, Jesus forsaken. So what is our special way to live Lent? Let's see. Fasting means denying ourselves from something. This sometimes can mean our favorite food, but it can also mean putting ourselves aside to love others. This means loving, even when we are suffering or when there is division. This Lent, let's ask ourselves, what is one act of love that I find difficult, but that I can do each day in preparation for Easter? Let's find that act of love and do it for Jesus on the cross. Almsgiving means helping others with offerings of money or other concrete things. This Lent, let's ask ourselves, who in the world is suffering because of divisions, inequalities, and other difficulties? What situations in my neighborhood, school, city, country, world are causing pain and division for people? How can I help? Perhaps I can pray for them in a special way. Perhaps I can send some of my allowance to a charity that works for these situations. Perhaps I can donate clothes or food to an organization that needs them. Let's find the situation that breaks our heart and love Jesus forsaken by responding to this suffering. Each time we do an act of love, even when it's hard, each time we try to make peace among those who are fighting, each time we try to heal a division, let's say to Jesus, this is for you. I am doing this to tell you I love you. And then, for those of us who are Catholic, let's bring all of these acts of love for Jesus forsaken to Mass and to place them on the altar during the offertory. Those of us who are not Catholic can do the same, bringing your acts of love to God during your church services, other moments of worship, or during your family or personal prayer. Let's make this Lent a beautiful moment to untie strings that are holding us back from loving more so that we can fly.
Wow, that was awesome.
Well, thanks for letting us share it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that was great. And I love that that there is this. I just love to see when, there is a celebration or a holiday that gets the focus of its intent, right? And so especially when it comes to children, because I feel like sometimes when we consider children and faith and practices, not maybe particularly in our faith, but as a larger social community, we find another way to put a different focus on it to kind of like intrigue them, so the whole Easter bunny thing and and all of that. And it's just like, no, they're capable of grasping the concepts of what, that particular observance is for. And even if we have to break it down to their level of understanding, we don't necessarily have to change the meaning to grab their focus. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Like I said, thanks for letting us share it. And I agree. I think the holidays, I think my experience growing up is that my parents tried in as much as they could to do exactly what you were saying, Sister Marsha. And I feel like it means that the holidays, our celebrations, our feast days don't lose their magic because of that, right? It just kind of grows instead of like losing the magic as you grow up. It almost gets bigger. So
right,
it's been a blessing for me.
Yeah, I appreciated one term in particular because we just went over that in our Quran study class with Imam Rashad this morning about pruning the tree, the importance of
Yes.
pruning the tree. So that really stuck out for me, and how they connected it to their character, that we have to check ourselves. You know, it's a valuable tool to use. You can all continue to chat. I'm going to try to share the other video quickly.
Yeah, no, that when that pruning came up, it also stuck out for me because that came up in the class earlier. And you know, and just those basic concepts in nature really help to, I feel like that helps you to connect to God in a way that is not fairy tale-ish, you know, and not sort of so far out and far-fetched, but to be able to connect with God in the nature that God created, and then to be able to use what you see in the world to help you to navigate through life, and really to see the examples of how to be, what to do, the way that life kind of goes with it, with its ebbs and flows, you know, how it sort of transitions at the different turns that it takes. To be able to see that in nature, I think connects you to God in a way that's just, it's natural, right? It's natural. So it doesn't feel like this connection that's so far removed or so hard to obtain.
Right. Yeah, it just somehow makes sense of it, I feel.
Right.
Like takes away from the absurdity, and I think, I don't know, I can relate to it when I think back in my life of times that were really rough and like continue to be. It's true that like when you look back in the moment, it feels rough, probably like the pruning thing. but then there's, you know, more times than not, you can see, okay, that's made me stronger. Like the classic, if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. But I think it's true. Like you can live, if you live that in a spiritual way, it's like even more beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, we're ready here. Let's get this in. This is a quick video on YouTube. We got to get a little more sophisticated like you all with you know, the special effects joint. So we'll get this little video play.
One thing about me is I love studying all of the different cultures throughout time. And today I have a cool video on culture about what is Ramadan. Since the beginning of time, people have celebrated in many different ways for many different reasons. And that is where today on Fresburg Culture, we are going to talk about Ramadan. First off, like many people celebrate the month of December for Christmas with giving and being charitable, Ramadan is a time of giving, healing, and being charitable too. Many who follow Islam do this because of the Prophet Muhammad. Like the Prophet Muhammad, many follow his actions during this month because they said he gave even more during Ramadan. In Islam, when looking to celebrate the holiday, the standard calendar that we use to tell dates are different. That's right. Islam uses a purely lunar calendar of 12 months. What that means is the start of each month is determined by the timing of the new moon. Just like many other holidays fall during certain times of year, Ramadan falls during the 9th month of the Islamic calendar and lasts for a month. This goes back as far as 600 AD. Although you may have never heard of Ramadan, that doesn't mean it's not big. For example, over 1 billion Muslims around the world celebrate Ramadan each year. One thing that really stands out about Ramadan is those who celebrate Ramadan don't eat when the sun is out. That's right. They fast from the first light of dawn until the sun goes down, and many Muslims don't eat or drink anything. This is done because it allows those who celebrate Ramadan and Islam to focus. That is definitely a long time to go without food, though. But in places like Egypt, they shorten the days by adjusting the time to have shorter days and longer nights. Kind of like when we do our time change here in the United States in the wintertime, and we have shorter days and longer nights. Now, one question you might ask is, what about the people who might get sick if they don't eat all day? For those who must eat during the daytime, it is okay for them to eat, but each day during that month, they have to feed someone who is less fortunate. Another interesting thing about Ramadan is those who celebrate really focus on their family and make a lot of promises. That is right. For Ramadan, many family members promise not to tell any lies, not to gossip, and not to be greedy during the Ramadan month. Well, that is all from me on Welcome to Fresburg. I really hope you enjoyed learning about what is Ramadan and how many Muslims around the world celebrate each year.
Beautiful. I love that.
Yeah, mute, Mujahideen. Well, oh, okay.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that was good. That was a nice little intro.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, you know, that as we prepare, because for us, you know, we're less than a week or about a week out before Ramadan comes in. So, you know, all week, or at least, well, I don't know about all week, but I would say starting this weekend, there's been like a lot of events, virtual ones, sort of with the preparation of Ramadan, right? So then that just kind of goes into it a little bit more with that video. And I guess particularly too for people who are not Muslim, right, and don't necessarily understand all of the tenets or understand the various components of our practice for fasting the month of Ramadan. Those pieces are going to be popping up, you know, as we prepare to go into the month. So it's always a nice reminder to understand, even if we're going back to the Lent video, right? It's always a good reminder for us to understand why we do what we do.
Yeah, that's crucial, because I mean, I remember as a child, we you know, we started practicing fasting young to get, you know, familiar with it. But, you know, in order for you to continue as an adult, you definitely have to tie into the value of and the purpose of the fast. Other than that, I mean, you'll get exhausted and you'll be worried about the food and not having food more so than actually the discipline, the consciousness and the focus of the revelation. It's a book of the revelation. And so we read more. We try to, you know, apply more of the revelation in our everyday life, for sure.
And it's a night. I mean, and then going into what I guess going into sort of the concept of faith communities around the Word of Life, right? It's nice to see how practices between the faiths are very similar. You know, so that kind of brings us to why we come together to converse every month around some scriptural piece from both the Quran and from the Bible, right? And so it just kind of puts that much more light on the fact that there are similarities in what we practice and the purpose of it.
Yeah, I love that from the video, I have to say. I loved hearing I've had the blessing of being able to celebrate different, like I guess to join friends who are Muslim in celebrating different aspects of Ramadan. But something that I really loved about the video was also hearing about when folks can't fast for one reason or another, that one of the suggestions is to give food to those who are less fortunate. And that kind of brings me back to the intentionality of it. Like, why do we fast? We fast, like sometimes we joke, right? Are we fasting to lose weight? Are we fasting to like just feel good about ourselves? But no, like we're fasting to honor God. So I loved how that part reminded us of the intentionality of it all too.
Yeah.
I appreciate the simplicity of both videos, like you were saying too, Sister Marsha. Maybe it was both, you know, made in a way that's engaging for younger people, but for even us as adults, just getting at the true focus of the season and of the practice. Really, it was, even for me, just watching both videos was a fresh reminder of the why. And when I reflect on my experience with fasting growing up and being introduced to it within my family, it in a similar way. It was so much about the behavior. So we wouldn't eat meat on Friday, and we would opt to eat more fish. And I remember within my family, it was very similar to what what we saw in the video on Ramadan, and this commitment to relationships in the family and how you're treating your family members. That was my memory of coming up in practicing fasting and living Lent, our 40 days of this time to really grow closer to God. And that was, I think, the extent of how my family modeled it and talked about why we do it, was it's really about loving your family members more, and by doing that, you build and strengthen a relationship that's closer to God. Because I guess that's like for a young person, maybe the simple way to start talking about character and pruning and simplifying, as much as possible what's most important. And I think what's common to both our communities is to really love, to show our love for God and focus on that relationship by way of the way we really hone in on our relationships with each other, even during the practice and the Lenten season where we're in Ramadan, where we're fasting, but we're doing it, I think, knowing that we're doing it as a personal experience, but all together we support one another. And I think it's really special that we'll have a little overlap between, because I think we're day 25 right now for our for Lent, 25 out of 40 days, because it started March 2nd was when we had Ash Wednesday. And so, to know Ramadan is coming up as well, we can really be living for each other. I plan to, with intentionality, think about our, both our communities, really focusing and thinking about how we're all self-pruning.
Yeah, I thought about that earlier, and that the time period is overlapping, and I think we had a little bit of that maybe even last year too. So it's nice to know that it's all sort of happening at the same time. Yeah.
Well, our Imam just dropped in the room. We'll let him give us the greetings, Brother Imam.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Peace and blessings. Hope everyone is well, and honored to be here, and pleasure to join in the conversation as I embark on a journey back home from a funeral for a beloved friend. So I'm happy to be here and to be part of this conversation of faith communities coming around together around the word of life. So here we are talking about Ramadan and the Lent season, or the fasting season. And just some quick thoughts that I would like to share with everyone here, that I don't know if everyone already shared it, but for us, for our practices as faith groups of those who consider Abraham, or Ibrahim, as we say in Arabic, but Abraham as our father, we know that fasting has been a long-standing tradition or practice, in both all of our faiths, Judaism, Christianity, and Al-Islam. And it's something that's been prescribed to us as it was prescribed to the people that came before us. So we take this month very seriously, and we come together as families to in communities to join in the meals, or the iftar, the zuhur, which is the early morning meal, was some in the West called breakfast, but our breakfast is the iftar. So I'm saying this is our breakfast at this point, after we have not eaten or drank anything within the period of the day. So it is a practice of self-restraint, and brings us closer to God, in that we're being obedient to what has been prescribed for us to do as part of our faith-based practice. So, and along with our special prayers that we pray at night, that's why we're busy at night, very busy, praying, and also asking Allah or God for His forgiveness, His salvation. Forgiveness, His mercy, forgiveness, and salvation from the fire. And we also, in this time, come together to give in charity, extra, if you can, because we believe that, as other faith groups say, too much is given, as much is expected, that you give in charity to those who are in need. And that could be money, but it could also be clothes, shoes, or giving someone a job. It's a big form of sadaqah, or extra charity, as we say. Making sure that they can get on their feet is a charity. and helping someone in any facet it could be considered a charity. So we do a lot of that practice as well, and also come together with our families. I said it before, but really come together with our families during this time to enjoy in the fast, enjoying in the meals, enjoying in the practice and the observation of what we're doing during this month of Ramadan. So
Absolutely.
I'm happy to be here, alhamdulillah, and happy to be part of the conversation.
Excellent. We might have to do another breakout show specifically for Ramadan, because there are some things that we're not able to cover in detail that will be beneficial for us as a reminder, but also for our listening audience. We see some of the commentary that you all have got the benefit of both of the videos, and so we're thankful to that. We'll now transition into the Word of Life, as well as the Muslim Word of Life. Who would like to do the honors? I know we have verse from the Bible is Luke 11:4. And then the Quran is 24 and 22. We about to do a study real quick. Anyone likes to read, or are we just going to reference it and have a discussion? For Luke 11:4 is pretty short. I can read that one. Forgive us our sins, as we also have forgiven sinners. That's Luke 11:4. And then the Quranic verse, Surah 24, I believe that's and Nor the Light. Chapter 24, verse 22 says, let not those among you who are endued with grace and amplitude of means resolve by oath against helping their kinsmen, those in want, and those who have left their homes in Allah's cause. Let them forgive and overlook. Do you not wish that Allah should forgive you? For Allah is all forgiving, most merciful. And I didn't say it verbally, but I said it to myself, but I will say it verbally. Anytime we read the Word of God, we always ask God for protection from the enemy of mankind. We know we are in an environment where the influences are everywhere that distracts us, and we have concepts that contradict and maybe be in conflict with the Word of God. And so we always seek protection before we read the Word of God. So I just wanted to verbalize it. Let us go.
Yeah, so I was thinking about this earlier, right? And so I have read both verses before. Actually, earlier today, I read both verses, and then I kind of read them before we got on camera, just to sort of be fresh in my mind as to what we were discussing. And it was just like, forgiveness, that's always that tough one, right? So we just finished talking about, going through our seasons of pruning and for the Focolare, they're inland, right? So they're going through that season of pruning, and we're preparing for Ramadan. We'll be going through the season of pruning. And then our everyday walk is always about us doing better, being better, growing, elevating. But when that forgiveness thing,
I'm about to say, you don't sound too confident, sis.
Well, I feel like that's one of the ones that we sort of like stumble over a little bit harder than we stumble over most of them, right? So if I'm being 100, as we say, that's one of the ones we sort of stumble a little harder over, and but it's important, right? Because there's this saying, and I'm not sure exactly where it comes from, but it said that forgiveness is for yourself. It's not for the other person, right? And I remember like just hearing that in years past, right? And just being like, that's a deep one, because and it's so true, because it's like, when you harbor things, that's doing something to you internally that you're not always conscious of. And it comes out in some of the weirdest ways, because we feel like we can, hold things and just be ourselves as we normally were, are used to being. And it's so far from that. You've got to be able to encounter a situation that may not have either felt like you were receiving justice or, you know, something of that vein, right? Or just having to have mercy in general for someone, and just really, really struggling with that, and maybe holding it. You know, some people are, it's very hard for them, and they're just like, listen, I don't care. He did this or she did that, or this wasn't fair, and I'm not dealing with them no more. Or I'm, you know, or I'm gonna just hold it in my heart for them. That's not my, you know, that's not somebody I want to mess with or deal with or whatever. And I'm not necessarily saying that you gotta let people, you know, sort of step on you, but you do have to release that anger that's attached to it because it winds up hurting you in the long run. And it, you know, I've heard people describe it as sort of like a cancerous type thing that is happening to you, your personal, or I should say like your spiritual self, right? That piece of you that is connected to God is sort of, you know, blackened in a way, or just kind of dim, like if we're looking at it in reference to a light, right? Because that Surah for us is An-Nur, right? So if you're thinking about it in terms of a light, like you're dimming the light of yourself when you do that. But we got to admit that, you know, sometimes it's a challenge, you know, because you be like, listen, forgive, I don't know. And then there's that whole saying of, you know, I'll forgive you, but I won't forget, that kind of thing too, you know. And I don't know necessarily that would, you know, in all cases we're looking to forget, right? Because you do need to know, well, okay, now I don't need, I muted myself. I don't need to go down that path anymore, but I'm not going to allow that to stop me from being the best of myself, or allowing my light to be as bright as it could be, should be, that sort of thing. But I like to keep it 100 and say, you know, sometimes it's a struggle.
Thank you, Sister Marsha, for those reflections. I think throughout when you were talking, everyone, I saw nods, smiles, because I think we're with you on that, and how difficult forgiveness can be. Even when you said that, like, release of anger, I think we've all had those experiences, and even myself as well, so many times. And it got me thinking when you said that, just how like the interconnectedness of self, where everything is connected in one way or another. And if we harbor those wrongdoings, it affects all aspects of who we are. And even when we were talking earlier about like Lent and Ramadan, and how both have those similar practices of fasting, but in that self-denial, that practice of denying ourselves of like worldly distractions, I think that reflects our spiritual growth, right? To kind of emulate, how can we see the goodness in the suffering, and the suffering in itself, that physical state helps us spiritually. And so it's, in ways, I felt like it's a good parallel to how, when you were talking about like why is it so difficult to forgive, it's because we can't fully continue to move forward without forgiveness. And that even if we think we can, like, you know, what you were saying about we can forgive, but like not forget, in ways we're still holding on, right? And it's not a total release of that anger. And so I find like just the reflecting on the fasting, and even these two passages of scriptures go really well hand in hand, the world of life, like the word of life, and how that reflection of, if one aspect of our hearts can't fully convert, or can't fully like love, right, our other neighbor in our fullest, and if we need to take that step of like forgiveness, what does that look like? It might take time, and that's okay. We may need to practice fasting to arrive there, or prayer, or whatever it is, and that collective self. But it's not like our self is like in little silos, right? It's just that interconnectivity that not only affects us in our relationship with God, but then also it inhibits us to fully love even our neighbor in all aspects of our life.
Yeah, and then the other big piece of the correlation between the both scriptures is in so we were just talking about it as forgiveness, us forgiving someone, right? But we also have to tie it into us also being the person who's looking for forgiveness, right? And so when you bring that into it, it's kind of like, well, how can I ask for something that I'm not willing to give? And I feel like that's sort of the overarching connection between the both scriptures, that if you want this, you've got to also be willing to give this type of thing. Yeah.
For me, with forgiveness and what is such a golden thread between both both the word of lives is hope. Like, to me, with what you all just shared, Sister Marsha and Karen, just speaks a lot to really an act of forgiveness, and all that it might take to make that step is really just it's like showcasing or giving life again into either a relationship with ourself or a relationship with God, relationship with the other, because to really be able to go beyond the hurt or the harm that we feel was done towards us really shows that that's really something to me that's of God, to be able to of being able to connect with God and help us get beyond our human condition. And so I definitely love what you said. It's forgiveness is certainly about being able to move forward and let go. And I think about the video from the Focolare Word of Life with the hot air balloon and being able to cut, the same way we would prune ourselves, or the way that we, want to cut ties so that way the balloon can fly. We as humans, we in our full selves can fly because we've been able to release anger or cut away, that which we're holding on to because of hurt and harm. And only, with having tools like fasting and having holy seasons like Ramadan and Lent, I think it does help us set the conditions so we can be open to that. Like you were saying, Karen, kind of putting ourselves through a physical condition that really almost forces us to center ourselves on that relationship with God. And we are looking for forgiveness often from the scriptures that we're reading, right? It's like, please forgive us our debts, as we have forgiven our debtors. So it's like, thank you, God. Like, God is merciful and loving, and so he models for us that which he would want us and we would want to be able to do with our neighbors. And I think it's just another really great connection point between both our communities, that we can live this all together.
Yeah, I just want to send snaps out there to this conversation. It's given me goosebumps a little bit as well. I think it's so true, Sasha, that freedom it brings. And I just want to shout out also Sister Marsha. I think it was so deep what you said about I'm trying to get it right. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you were talking about how if we expect to be forgiven, we need to also forgive others. But you were talking about how we also need to ask forgiveness, that's part of it as well, that we need to be ready to be forgiven. And I think that sometimes, I don't know, it's sometimes there's a depth in what you said. There's the communitarian part of that, right? Of that it goes both ways. There's a reciprocity. And I don't know, the more that I've been forgiven for things, I think, by other people, the more capacity I have in my heart to forgive people too. And so I feel like I need to give that forgiveness out so that it can be a reciprocal thing, or to be aware of the forgiveness that I've received so that I have that capacity in my heart to give it back. So yeah, beautiful sharing. I'm going to take that with me for the week for sure.
And I know I made a little humor when you were communicating the struggle. Is actually, as I was looking at the terms itself in the Quranic Arabic, it's actually in a form that indicates that it takes effort. So it's not like, it's not a light matter. So it's not like, easily done. So as you were communicating it, it is a struggle. I mean, God recognizes that it's going to take effort for the one who's been wrong, the one who's been, got the short end of the stick to push forward and get beyond the injury, right? Don't look at the injury as the person. Look at the injury as, the action of the person, and that, we all make actions and we make missteps, right? And so God has given us, insight and guidance on how to deal with each other in the way that we act. And that you're not just how you treat me, right? You're also what led you to want to treat me like that, right? Especially dealing in these times with, prejudice and, racial bias and these systems that have been set up to sustain those logics. It's like, okay, well, most of the people that's carrying out a lot of these things, they're not really aware most of the times of what the impact that they're dishing out, right? And so it's like, if I keep looking at a certain particular race or a certain particular group of people based upon how they treat me, and not really looking at, what leads them to even think like that or act like that. So God is evolving all of us in humanity to be a little more intelligent that we claim we are.
The one thing too that just came to me is that, when we think about having to forgive someone else, right? We sometimes that there's a term that's used in that you have to or even you seeking forgiveness of someone else. There's a term used that says you're swallowing your pride, right? And so the reason, and I think that just came to me, and why it was so poignant when it came to me, was that while us forgiving someone else or seeking forgiveness is swallowing our pride, we don't necessarily think of it that way when we're seeking forgiveness from God, right? We just feel like God kind of, for whatever it is that you're seeking forgiveness for, God is having mercy, right? And so you're going to God for whatever this forgiveness is, and he's just going to dish out forgiveness to you so very easily. But for us, it's a real, or at least I feel like that's the way we perceive it. It's a real swallowing of your pride. And so I challenge us to have that to be an easier process, right? And just knowing that we don't what Mujahideen just said was that, we're not just that action, right? We're more than that. We're, and even to add to that, we don't always know all of the circumstance around, what even led to whatever the misstep or mishap was. Somebody cut you off while you're driving, and now you're angry, and you want to be yelling. Let me tell you something. When I'm driving, the one thing I don't like is when I'm driving and someone is behind me, or 2-3 cars behind me, and you're beeping your horn. But don't be right behind me beeping your horn, because I'm not just sitting here just because. I'm sitting here because I can't go. And I am definitely famous for saying, I will stop this car so that nobody can go. But we never know, that person could be late for work, and so they're in a rush to get to where they need to go. And so sometimes we do have to sort of consider the circumstances around it. But I definitely am guilty of listen, I will put this car in park, and nobody can go. Stop the beeping that horn.
You're making me think of this week. I was asked to speak at a class about mercy, a theology class that we had on our college campus, and we asked the students as a warm-up activity. There was 2 of us giving the talk, and we asked the students to define mercy. And they were putting a post-it up to define mercy, and then another post-it they had to give an example of what that meant. And one student wrote that mercy is forgiving someone even if you don't know them. And her example, she said, if someone's going through traffic and cutting everybody off, they're like zigzagging through traffic, then you get to the traffic light and you let them actually go ahead of you instead of cutting them off. And you could feel everybody in the class, starting from me, going like, wow, like that's amazing. You know, like that's like you, Sister Mark, being real, you know, like stuff like that. That's hard, you know? So
Yes.
she said, I tried to do that. I tried to, like, if somebody cuts me off in traffic, I tried to like respond by being extra kind to them. And so
Yeah, I'm working on that.
oh my gosh, me, it's a day.
The irony is y'all better get out of her way when she got to go
But I liked also the concept of like doing a very conscious, like not just like an emotional act of mercy, you know, not just saying like, okay, I forgive that person like on a cerebral level, but like a concrete, okay, I'm gonna do some concrete action right now to like show that I forgive, or like to even, and like you said, Sister Marsha, like it's for yourself as much as anything. So it's like almost like to show myself that I've forgiven that, for, you know, to like help myself take that extra step in forgiving, do an extra act of kindness. And so I definitely have remembered that student during the week, not only when driving, but other stuff. And her wisdom, that student's wisdom. So
yeah, because you want to caution yourself also not to get stuck. And so when when you're not in that mindset of forgiving, you put yourself in a position to potentially get stuck in a place, and that's not healthy either. You know, so because we probably all know somebody who sort of just kind of retells a story about how somebody wronged them in a way, and it's just kind of like, and when are you gonna let that go? You know what I mean? And you don't want to wind up being that person stuck in that moment. And sometimes, people don't know how to get, it's a cycle, right? So people don't know how to get out of that cyclical way of thinking, being, feeling. I had someone in my life describe it as picking a scab. There's sort of a pleasure in continuing to pick at the scab, and for an outsider looking in, you would say, don't you just want it to heal? But there's a certain pleasure that people get from time to time in picking the scab.
We are coming up on the hour. This was we were just getting a little juicy. I know it went past so fast. We were digging in kind of deep there. We some deep divers up here.
Now you gotta let Imam Bilal in here too.
Of course. We'll do a lightning round, maybe of a minute each before we close out. For those of you who would like to continue the conversation, we do have our WhatsApp open. You can check us out at tinyurl.com/fact2022. FACT stands for, of course, what does it stand for? Faith around communities. I don't know where I was going with that. But anyway, FACT 2022. You can click on that and join the WhatsApp, and we can continue the discussion there. We'll let Bilal start us off as we round up. And we do have a debut. We didn't get to do it in the beginning, so we get to do it at the end, the outro, which will be our new intro. So we're looking forward to playing that for you all. We're going to do it twice because it's so nice, but I'll let Bilal get us rolling.
Oh yeah, Bismillah. The aspect of forgiveness, as I've been listening, as everyone has been talking about this forgiveness to each other, forgiveness of self, I think it's crucial that we learn the aspect of forgiving each other, even if it's small, man. Like there's so many friendships that are lost and relationships that are lost because of something small that happened, that maybe was a miscommunication, what they say we used to play in school, broken telephone. Maybe it was broken telephone, and that it was just miscommunication. So, and then there's things that are hard to forgive, like really hard to forgive somebody over, like it was more serious than just some miscommunication, like it was some serious abuse that was involved, or and other things like that. So that may take some time, but then I think that what's most important is that when we ask God and ask Allah to help in this, because we want to ask Him first for forgiveness, right? And then we want to ask Allah that if this person really hurt me, like I want to make up. I want to like ask for forgiveness, but I'm having a difficult time doing it, right? And that can be honest. That could be your honest prayer. Your honest prayer could be like, God, I need help forgiving this person. Like, how do I go about doing it? And he'll show you how you go about doing it, and it's all about your intentions too. Intentionality is so key. If you're really about forgiveness and forgiving another person and forgiving yourself, and you set your intentions right, it's going to go good.
Oh, that was a cool minute. I thought I was gonna give you one of my minutes. No problem. Okay, that was sharp. Kate.
Hard to follow that, but and I feel like I've spoken a lot this evening. But so I'll just pass the mic. I'll take with me everything that everyone said, and really that desire to be intentional, like Imam said, and that mutuality that we've spoken about too. So,
all right, Karen.
Yeah, I think for me, the big takeaway is that just listening to the discussion, it really just recentered me, in this Lenten season. Everybody had just wonderful experiences, reflections, and I really like in the Ramadan video of like how that fasting helps people to focus. I think that's like the word that I'm kind of like taking away, like refocus in self. What does this fasting season mean to me in relationship with God and relationship with others? And then also how can my reflections and thoughts really reflect and mirror my acts? So making sure that that's in harmony. It's not just one-sided or whatnot in practice. So just really, really grateful to spend some time with all of you this evening. And so after a full week, a very busy week, I feel energized, so thank you. Thank you for that.
Thanks, Sasha.
I just look forward to living mutuality with all of you, with our Muslim brothers and sisters as you embark on Ramadan, and knowing that we'll be having parallel experiences in these coming weeks. And I think my takeaway still is hope. I just feel very hopeful after this conversation all together with you, and I really appreciate just hearing and learning about each of your unique perspectives and own reflections on really what this season means and what fasting means, and just being able to support one another and to use Karen's takeaway to just help each other focus and forgive and connect. So thank you for having me.
Excellent. And so I'll give my comments. I'll let Marsha close us out. But the end of the verse, it says, Allah is forgiving and merciful, right? And so it's like, as we're discussing, and I'm taking it in myself and looking at myself and those things that, may have been a challenge for me and getting through some things. It's like, it's Allah always, it's God always present. He's always in charge. I mean, anything that comes to us, it comes to us from him anyway, right? And so that doesn't mean that, as Sister Marsha said earlier, like we could, just allow people to just do anything to us, as people of faith. But we do have to recognize that God is communicating to us in every way and everywhere. And so that's a reality that I'm taking away from this, is that, while we, experience the injury, experience the disrespect, know that, Allah is bringing something to our attention for us to be more aware and more alert. And then lastly, one more thing, and we'll talk about this again for some of the benefits of Ramadan, but in our Ramadan, it's broken up into 3 sections. The first 10 days is the days of mercy. The second 10 days is the days of forgiveness. And then the last 10 days is protection from the fire. And so, again, this is tying right into our fast as training for us to inculcate these principles in our everyday activity.
And so there are 2 things that actually Imam Bilal mentioned that I just wanted to shed a little bit more light on. One of them being forgiveness of yourself, right? Because when we talked about forgiveness, for the most part, the conversation was about having to forgive someone else. And then we talked a little bit about seeking that forgiveness, whether it be from God or also from an individual. But then that other layer of forgiveness is the forgiveness of ourselves, right? If we were, if there's something that we have either done or some place that we feel like we should be or something that we should be doing and we're not quite there, having that gentleness with ourselves is also important. So I just wanted to mention that again. And then there was another piece that he said that just escaped my mind. So I guess I got to get that on the next go on the next go around. But it's just it's so important for. Oh, I know what the other piece was, and I don't even know how I forgot this, because this comes up a lot in the conversations that Imam Bilal and Mujahideen and I have, and that whatever the challenge is. So in this particular case, we're having the conversation about forgiveness. But if you're finding it difficult to forgive, and that's something that Imam Bilal brought out, that really should be the thing that is a part of your prayer life. You know what I mean? Like our prayers don't have to be so routine and so rote. You know what I mean? They can be very intentional. And in my opinion, they should be intentional from the perspective of the thing that you are struggling with, the thing that you are aspiring for or to, that those things are the things that you should be going in prayer about, right? If your intention is to really grow in that area or to find a solution in that area, to not get stuck in terms of this conversation and forgiveness, or you're really just having a difficult time with it, those are the things that you should be going to God about and really looking for that insight into how to move to the next level. So I just wanted to shine the light a little bit more on those two things that he brought out, because they really stuck out and were very poignant for me. And I think that it could benefit us all in striving to be our better selves and pruning ourselves to always move towards that higher ground. And so with that said, I appreciate having this moment with you all. Remember throughout the week, when there is, a moment of having to have forgiveness or give forgiveness, that it's important for maintaining a clean heart, but also maintaining your close connection to God.
Excellent. Thank you all for joining us. Much love to those who are following us on YouTube. Y'all coming through tonight on YouTube. Please like, subscribe, and share, as they say. A couple shout outs here. We have Renata. She says, bada bing, thank you. This is so important. Forgiveness is an act of courage that makes one feel so free. True indeed. Also, we have some comments from Liz. She says, such a gift to be with you all. Helps to know that if we practice loving kindness, we can in some way bring peace closer to earth. That's a fact. And then we have Ronnie. She says, excellent conversation. Keep up the good works. We got John. Where you calling from, John? Where you watching us from? John says, what I heard tonight is going to help me to live this season of fasting better with you all. Thank you. And again, excellent. Last comment, Sister Marsha. Thank you all. All right. So I'm gonna do a little drum roll because we gotta juice this up, man. We've been waiting for this for a little minute. You know what I mean? Where's the drum roll at? I said I'm gonna do it twice because it's so nice, but we would like to hear from you all's comments.
Well, you gotta tell them what you're doing.
What am I doing? So y'all know our intro song comes on, the one and only Shadi Aki, Sunnah Music. We collaborated with him. We collaborated with Stevie Franks with our new logo. Check out our new logo, as well as Samad, Truth Be Told. Smart Media is his company. He put this compilation together. So we're happy to share with you all here first with everyone together. So I got to do the drum roll, then we'll put the thing on, then we'll be right back. Then I'm going to do it again, then. All right, I'll stop.
We got freedom to gain, we feed them the game. Turn on new freedom exchange, we freeing your brain. They trying to shackle your mind, no half of us blind. Remember the past, but never go backwards in time. The ancestors lived through us, they help us build a model community. New Africa is soon to be. So tune in to Sister Marsha, Mujahideen, Imam Bilal, to get your cultural enlightenment now.
I love it.
Yes, so that'll be our new
awesome
intro for our show. We didn't play it in the beginning because we wanted to make sure that Imam Bilal was with us, so we decided to play it at the end of the show. But when you tune into the new Freedom Exchange show, that's how you'll see us come on going forward. So again, shout out to all those who were instrumental in pulling all the pieces of that together so that we have a new look.
Right, I love it.
Excellent. So our next show for us will be again, I don't know, did we decide we were taking off for Ramadan now? We'll get back to you on that. But we do have a show coming up, I believe next week, a documentary for Sister Shelly Shabazz. I wasn't able to put her song in, but she has a beautiful song in relation to faith. So maybe God willing, we'll have that as we present the show next week. Until next time, peace.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
We got freedom to gain, we feed them the game. Turn on new freedom exchange, we freeing your brain. They trying to shackle your mind, no half of us blind. Remember the past, but never go backwards in time. The ancestors lived through us, they help us build a model community. New Africa is soon to be. So tune in to Sister Marsha, Mujahideen, Imam Bilal, to get your cultural enlightenment now.